there's more of a demand for interest than there's a supply of content available, right? And so what I discovered a couple years back, the best content to do this for is reviewing your competitors.
Welcome to Stay Paid Insurance and Financial Marketing. Unlock the secrets of success in insurance and financial services, where each episode delivers valuable tips and strategies to elevate your marketing game and help you succeed in both life and business. Brought to you by Reminder Media. Welcome to Stay Paid. I'm Joshua Stike along with Luke Acree, and our guest today is David Duford. David is an author, YouTube influencer, and owner of Duford Insurance Group, which he started in 2013. Since then, David has gone on to recruit over 3,000 agents, created dozens of six-figure earners, and mentors multiple seven-figure insurance agencies. David, welcome to Stay Paid. Thanks for being here.
Josh, Luke, thank you. Appreciate it.
David, how does it feel to be a YouTube influencer?
You know, it's cool. It's like this. You're a celebrity that nobody knows, you know, like in my little weird niche of life insurance, people know me, but then I can go up to Publix and grab something to eat and nobody bothers me.
Yeah, that's so nice. Funny. It's funny. I just had an interview with a CTO candidate that had watched a video of ours like 2 years ago, and he was part of another business at the time. And so he was like, it's kind of surreal. I was like, this is the only moment in my life I feel like maybe I'm decently popular. This is crazy.
Yeah, like a big deal. Yeah.
So I'm excited to pick your brain. I think I wanted to lead with the YouTube thing because I think you're crushing it content wise. This show's all about marketing, and you know, you've built a great agency. You've recruited thousands of agents. You're mentoring people, and you're going all in on content. Walk me through why content. Why have you chosen to go all in, especially on YouTube? Yeah. What's your thought process there?
Well, you know, so this all started back in 2014. I saw a competitor of mine put some YouTube content out on an insurance forum, and I thought he was a complete moron. I thought, why is he giving away his best stuff for free? And that was the devil on my shoulder talking, you know, the angel on my shoulder said, you know, how about look at it the other way, putting your best stuff out? People are going to think, well, how good could it be to actually work with the guy, right? And plus, this industry suffers from a crisis of trust, right? There's a lot of shenanigans that go on in it. And so being the person that helps without anything, expecting anything in return is a good position to be in. So that's why I went that route. And the other reason too, is because having a social brand in a trust issue based business, recruiting people to sell insurance, right? There's all sorts of trust issues there. You can break through that mental clutter that people understandably have and create relationships with people at scale without actually interacting with them on a one-on-one basis. So it's incredibly powerful. It's still untapped. There are way more people now doing what I started doing in 2014. And it's a great opportunity for agents, agency builders alike that really want to tap into that kind of influencer strategy to generate, I believe, are the best leads that you could ever do and ever get.
So you've been at it for almost 10 years then, content-wise, if you started 2014. When you look back, what are some of the greatest takeaways of how you think about the videos you put on YouTube, from long to short, to how you title them, to, you know, the hashtags or whatever keywords? Like, what are some of your greatest takeaways there?
Yeah, I mean, so my best advice and best takeaways is put out the best possible content that you can do. I'm an advocate of quantity of content. I think the more you do, the better you get. But on the flip side, if you really work at quality and putting out the best information possible for whatever the topic is, even if it's not daily or weekly that you produce content, you're likely going to get ranked because the content is just so incredible. So that's a big takeaway, is really put all your heart in creating content, and also understand the niche that you're in, and how people are doing due diligence, how people are researching. Once you understand kind of the process that people go through, like in recruiting agents, for example, you kind of know how to hack other people's funnels, right, with different kind of content, and that builds your agency, right? So the more you do, the more you start to realize this stuff. So the big takeaway, I guess, for me is just put out as much and as high quality content as you can, and you'll learn a lot from the mistakes you make, and you'll get better faster because of it too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just going to say, so let's dig into your niche there, David, because you're selling final expense, right? So that's really kind of been your niche. Let's start with the marketing side. You talk about effective lead generation for final expense leads. How is that working now? What do you see coming in 2024 for how people can generate leads for that?
Yeah, so final expense, it's not really changed. I started in 2011, and the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. It's funny to think back to 2011, like the world's changed a lot since then, you know. But final expense, it's the same stuff. It's direct mail if you're in person, and probably the biggest change that we've seen is more digital leads or self-generation if you're selling over the phone or and to some extent in person. TV leads are still an option too. If those can be pretty expensive. But the fundamentals of the business are still the same. You need a reason to talk to people. That's why you have leads, to give you leverage to get in the door or start a conversation. And the sales process is pretty much the same. So is there changes with wordings and kind of some of the creative that you use? Sure, but not so fundamentally different that it's changed. That's kind of a cool thing about final expenses. It's not some business that's under some sort of attack from its core functionality, right? Like it's still pretty much the same in marketing, sales, and the whole ball of wax.
What do you see the conversion rates out on like final expense leads? What's been your experience?
Yeah, so conversion rates are a function of, so when I think of conversion, I'll make sure we're all talking the same talk.
Sure.
Like how many sales do we get for the number of leads we buy? That's what I think of conversion.
That's what I think too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends on the type of lead. So if you're 5 to 10%.
Okay.
Right? So if I buy 100 Facebook leads, if I close 5 to 10, agents are going to, like our people fall within that range. There are agents that do a little better. Any below 5%, you're kind of getting in that danger zone to justify the expense, right, of buying leads. Direct mail, good agents will convert somewhere in the 20 to 30% range. Okay. So if I buy 20 direct mail pieces and I sell them face to face, I'm going to expect to get 4 to 6 deals, right? That's a good, healthy range that's scalable and justifies the investment. TV leads are approximately same, 20 to 30%. And that rate of conversion stayed the same, you know, even as more agents. That's the biggest problem in final expense. It's not that the business has changed or the dynamics have changed. It's that there's more interest in it, and everybody buys leads, so that's driving conversion cost up, right? Cost to acquire a client. That's probably the biggest challenge, but the conversion rates really haven't changed over the years. I mean,
do you see anything on like how to work the lead that you've seen over the years of like, okay, I got the lead, I bought it, you know, working it is part of the conversion, like how many times I call, how fast I should call, should I go door knock it after I call? Like, do you have any advice there?
Yeah. So for telesales, the speed to lead is the concept we use. We want to get on the phone with a new lead within 5 minutes. It's probably the hottest time and the most consistent time to get a pickup and to get a positive reception. So that's critical. The other thing, we started telesales as COVID started in 2020. We had no experience really. Well, I had some experience in telesales, but not recruiting agents en masse. And we've learned along the way that script-wise, you got to get to the point faster with telesales. People have short attention spans on the phone. You know, they're sitting on the toilet watching Jerry Springer, doing something other than listening to you. And if you drone on too long they're going to lose interest, right? So our scripting has changed to where we get to the quote quickly, right? And leave a lot of the niceties behind and get really direct and not like right away, but, you know, we move pretty quickly through the script. That's a big thing that's changed. Other than that, triple dialing in order to get around the telemarketing, likely telemarketer, spam likely stuff, like all that stuff is a big issue. Triple dialing your numbers. Using services that can bypass some of that. Like you've got to be mindful because, again, the biggest challenge in this business is not the no's, it's the maybes.
Yes.
And the maybes are defined as people who never pick the phone up. And you know there's sales there if they just pick up the phone, right? And so having tools to address that is imperative.
Do you see anything to tie it back to like the content conversation? Do you see anybody in the final expense space doing content? Because that audience might be, I just don't know if it would work or not.
The only successful content creator I know in final expense is Anthony Martin. He has a website called Choice Mutual, and it's website based. It's not social media influencer based. So it's a lot of informative articles. He's just a genius when it comes to SEO. You know,
Okay.
all of this stuff is organic too. You know, he's not paying for leads, and he's the only one. There's some smaller websites, of course, that do well, but I don't see anybody on YouTube. I attempted to do it many years ago. People aren't, to the best of my knowledge, and I'd love to be proven wrong, aren't going on to YouTube saying, what's the best burial insurance? They're not doing it in mass. It's not like Medicare, where if you go on and there are lots of influencers probably in the Medicare space
there
that
are.
talk about the difference between Plan F, Plan G, all that stuff, right? And there's tons of Medicare recipients or eventual recipients doing their due diligence. I just haven't seen that in the final expense space, unfortunately.
Do you find that, like, obviously buying leads and final expense is probably one of your main ways, but what about referrals? Like,
yeah, I've honestly never been a big referral guy, and it's not that I don't believe in referrals. It's just that when you're buying leads at scale, it's like an urgency. You don't really need to get referrals. Like if you don't have a lead system to buy leads from, referrals probably matter more, right? Because now you've got to figure out a way to stay busy, right? So referrals are going to be instantly more important. But with that said, my trainer that does face-to-face final expense in our agency now, we've incorporated a referral script. We're more diligent about it, and it gets results. But yeah, I'm a big believer in it. But again, for final expense, if you're getting enough leads, it's like you don't have to. So the urgency to ask isn't there.
Gotcha. So it's really a sales discipline thing. It's like if you have the discipline, you can cut the cost of acquisition down because you get 2 leads for 1, basically. If you close one of them. All right, so I want to switch gears just a little bit because you're just a master recruiter, obviously. You have 3,000 plus agents in the agency. How do you think about marketing and attracting agents? I know you do your content in one end. What else are you doing to attract agents into your agency?
I mean, that's it. I mean, it's funny.
It's just content.
We spent the last year trying to diversify our recruiting efforts, and I've spent a ton of money on cold email, Craigslist, ZipRecruiter, putting up processes, funnels to, meet these people, get them interested. And we did a recent survey on agents joining, and still, after all this last year, 85% come from YouTube.
Jeez.
Right? Originating on YouTube and then us emailing them. Kind of a 1-2 punch. So if that's any sort of golden nugget to you aspiring agency owners to do YouTube or to social media as far as a way to find people, like, find mistakes. Like YouTube, social media in general is where it's at. It's where you really want to be.
How do you get them into your funnel? You said you email them. Like, what's your kind of call to action, or what's your way to get them into your funnel?
Yeah. So a couple of different ways. So I put out as much content as I can. Again, the concept here is I've developed an understanding and intuition of what people want to see. And through this content production process, people go down the black hole, right? As we all done with different people on YouTube. And you get to know, like, and trust a person. And eventually me saying every single video, go to davidduford.com to learn more. They go over there and click. Sometimes we mix it up and I offer some free training. We have a website they can go to get like free scripts and that kind of thing. And once they go there, then either there's 2 tracks to go down. They'll either go through the process of learning more about joining. We do Q&A calls, collect their information at that point. Opt in for the free information, the free sales training website that we have. Again, a lot of our agents are new to the business, don't even know where to start, much less what they should know. So the free training is really appreciated. We collect their information and then start to build a relationship there. And then to the extent how long it takes them, some get funneled in. Obviously, we have an application interview process to make sure the fit's good. And that's how they end up joining.
How did you get, like, you're over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? Like almost.
I think 40, so. I think close to 40 almost.
So you obviously didn't start with 40,000. How did you get awareness? Like, how do you grow? I think that's probably one of the biggest things that people deal with is how do you actually get through awareness? Obviously there's organic, there's people finding your videos, pieces like that. How long did it take you to grow that audience? Yeah,
it's funny. So I'll give you the timeline, and then I'll give you some like tips for your audience, like what they can do to kind of hack the awareness that I think work well that are underutilized. So I started in 2000. I would like drive to my appointments with the iPhone 4 in my hand as I drove and talk about final expense, and try not to die. And I did a little bit of that, got away from it, did a little bit more. And I really didn't get much traction until like 3 years in. I was slowly gaining subscribers. But I think when I started interviewing, nobody was really interviewing top producers and top agency owners. I started doing that, and I felt like that got us some traction and some more attention because it was more shareable. And this kind of is the first principle. Big thing you should do is collaborations with people in your space, right? So collaborations, like even your competitors, like if you can have your competitors on and you can interview them, or you can do some kind of content together, you're going to cross pollinate, that's the word, their subscriber base, and their subscribers will see you, likewise for them, and people are going to win. So I do that when I train agents that want to learn what I do. That's part of the strategy we teach is I have them on my channel. It kind of gives them a bump. It gives them some interest, et cetera, right? And finds them an audience. The other things that worked really well are tapping into, and this is agency building side, is tapping into the content that there's more of a demand for interest than there's a supply of content available, right? And so what I discovered a couple years back, the best content to do this for is reviewing your competitors. Okay. So it's interesting. People, and I can only speak to life insurance. I don't know how it is outside of life insurance, but people come into the business not asking questions about, so is life insurance a good business? How does life insurance work? They see some ad or get a referral for, an MLM insurance company, and they're like, this kind of seems like a scam. And so they jump onto that company, and then they start doing their due diligence by name of the company, not the field that they're going to work in. So I started reviewing these companies, and lo and behold, that's my best performing content. So I'm hacking their funnel.
Genius.
The MLM, yeah. And so I'm pulling people away that they paid money for to get them into my orbit, because now they're like, there's something up with this company. They're affirmed that there is, and then they start going down the funnel of mine, right?
Yeah, so I saw you do that with your recent one, Primerica. I was like, oh, it's a freaking gold, dude.
So that's, there's endless amounts of critique for that company, good or bad. But that one I took and did a reaction video, and that's another way to collaborate, is to take another person's video that performed well from a known influencer and then react to it. Again, nobody in our space does anything like that. And that video, best performing video I've had in a long time. And it'll probably perform way better over the next 6-12 months, and that's getting more people who are looking at Primerica into my funnel. So it's good.
Yeah, it's genius too, because it feels in a way like not clickbait, but like headline-ish, like news-ish, like in the sense, but then you get into it and you're like, it doesn't feel like you're not getting what you actually clicked in to try to receive.
So you bring up a good point. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is important for content producers. Clickbait is fine as long as you can deliver. Like I know some people in our space that I can think of a few, they use clickbait. And one of the things was with this FCC thing, and it says, all FCC's banning all leads. And it's like, no, they're not. Like, they're banning certain kinds, but if you lied to your audience or deceived them, they're eventually going to start picking up on that. And why would you want to do that in this business? So be very thoughtful, because, and not just for today and recruiting today, but for the next 10 to 20 years. And you got to think that far ahead and really maintain your reputation, and don't take it for granted, because people have long memories about this stuff, and, just treat people right. And that's how you demonstrate what information you're serving them.
Yeah, it's such a great golden nugget, because that is like what I felt. This is the first time we're meeting, doing this interview, but I watched a bunch of your content, and I felt that from your content of like, it felt like, oh, clickbait. But then when I got in, I was like, wow, this is really well done. And how you approached the topic. And I loved like your responding like reaction wise to the other video, because it also lowered the sleaziness of feeling like you're about to bash a Primerica or something like that. It made it totally legitimate, because you're responding to someone else's take and you're giving your take. Right. It was awesome. Like such a great point. Write that down, Ethan, our producer. We're gonna have to do some of that. I was very impressed.
It's great. You can. I'm doing a lot more of it this year, because it works. People want to see it. People want drama. People want entertainment. but they want information too. And if you can converge all of that into one, you've got good content.
Isn't the problem with like the insurance space, Josh and I, we work in about 142 different industries. Insurance is one of our biggest industries from a marketing perspective. But, the agents, you recruit a bunch, but they don't perform. They don't make it. So it's like a constant churn in a lot of these businesses that I see. How did you try to overcome the onboarding to productivity? Or is it kind of just being real? You just go, no, Luke, it's a numbers game. Recruit as many as you can.
Well, I think Mark Twain, I think he said something like it's easier to remember the truth and remember the lie that you told, so I with everybody, most people fail out of this business. Here's the reasons why. Here's how our agency helps deflect that, but there's no guarantee you're going to be successful. I think the right people who are going to sustain themselves in the business will appreciate that kind of candor. And again, that's that positioning of what you're doing long term. Yeah. The other thing we do too, though, and again, this is advice, and this is, again, we're from the life insurance business. Typically, the parameters to recruit a candidate are, do you have a pulse? Can you fog this mirror? You're hired, right? And that just doesn't work. And the guys at the top of the pyramid, like they don't get hurt from it, but the guys in the middle that deal with chargebacks and roll-ups, they get just decimated by it. And so what really should be done is we should treat this business like serious, and we should have applications, interviews, second interviews if possible, probationary periods to start agents. This is all stuff that we employ that we found works really well. And long story short, that's how we try to pick the best candidates is multiple lines of qualification, getting rid of the people who clearly aren't a good fit, and then making sure what they say they're going to do, they actually deliver on in that first week of working with us.
Yeah, it's always comes down to, it's like you don't get what you expect, you get what you accept. So if they say they're going to do something, did they do it? And if they didn't. And I have found, I know Josh and I have talked about this a lot, it's like you kind of know an A player within like the first week. Like first couple of days, you just, it's wild how like the more and more you interact and hire people, you just go, yep, And so I always tell people, it's like, if you don't know somebody's an A player, I got news for you. They're not. Because you'll know immediately if you've hired enough people who's an A player, who's not.
We, in meeting with my managers, one of the things I constantly emphasize to them is that this, and only speaking from final expense, that's our core competency. That's what we do. They should be making sales in their first week on the phone or in person. Wow. I'm not saying every agent's going to knock it out of the park. That's not the standard, but they should be getting results. This is a one call close business, right? And if they're not closing in that first week and they've truly applied themselves, this isn't for them. And we need to exit stage left. They need to go on to something else, because it rarely, if ever, turns around. I've yet to see a eureka moment where somebody has just grinded it out for 3 months, really trying hard, then all of a sudden he strikes gold in final expense. It doesn't happen that way. And having people hang on that long is costly. It's time consuming. It's unfair to them.
Yeah.
When that's just the reality of the business.
Yeah. So well said.
Awesome. David, appreciate you coming on. Before we close out here, let people know how they can follow you and find you on YouTube.
Yeah. Just hit up YouTube. You can put in David Dufour or the DIG agency, the DIG agency, and you'll start seeing my content and going down my black hole of content. So look forward to seeing you there.
Man. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you again. And thank you all for listening. You can dive deeper into this week's episode with the show notes, as well as get the links that David mentioned over at staypaidpodcast.com, all in one spot. And if you enjoyed this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts, drop us a 5-star review along with the comment. We'll read it here on the show. And the best way to support the show is simply share this episode with someone that you know. If you want to get a hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on social. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I'm Luke Acree. David, thank you so much, man. So many golden nuggets. Love it. I would tell everybody the action item from this podcast is pretty obvious. If you're not using YouTube to create content, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. And keep in mind, it's not an overnight success, right? It's 2014 to 2024. Day in and day out, and that's like everything in business and in life. If you stay consistent in it and you keep doing it, you'll have success. But remember, ultimately, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.